The black SUV was there again. Jessica Morgan gripped her steering wheel, her knuckles turning white as she pulled into the grocery store parking lot. Her eyes were glued to the rearview mirror. Same vehicle, same dark tinted windows, same spot, 3 rows back, always keeping its distance but never quite disappearing from view. This was the 4th time this week. "You're just being paranoid," she whispered to herself, her own voice a faint tremor in the quiet of her car. She grabbed her purse and stepped out into the cold, persistent Portland drizzle. It's a common car. Lots of people drive black SUVs. But paranoia has a funny way of weaving itself into reality, making you question every shadow, every passing glance. Inside the sterile, fluorescent-lit aisles of Fred Meyer, Jessica tried to push the thought away. She filled her cart with the usual essentials, a bag of dark roast coffee, a few boxes of pasta, and a bottle of red wine she probably didn't need, but definitely wanted. She was reaching for a box of whole wheat crackers, her mind on dinner plans when she felt it. That unmistakable prickle on the back of her neck, the body's ancient alarm system screaming that someone was watching. She turned slowly, her movements deliberate, scanning the dairy section just behind her. And there he was. By the milk coolers, a man, maybe in his early 50s, with a weathered face and a plain navy blue jacket. He wasn't pretending to shop. He was staring directly at her. When their eyes met, a jolt went through her. He didn't look away, didn't flinch, didn't offer a polite nod. He just stood there, his expression utterly blank, holding a gallon of milk he clearly had no intention of buying. Jessica's heart started to hammer against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of fear. She abandoned her half-full cart right there in the aisle and walked quickly toward the checkout lanes. She glanced back once, then twice. The man hadn't moved. He was still watching her, a statue in a sea of oblivious shoppers. She paid in a blur, her hands trembling so much she fumbled with her credit card. The cashier asked if she wanted her receipt. Jessica didn't even hear her. She was already pushing through the automatic doors, her walk breaking into a near jog across the wet, glistening pavement toward her little Honda Civic. She fumbled with her keys, finally unlocking the door and throwing herself inside. She locked the doors, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Then she looked. The spot where the black SUV had been parked was empty. That should have been a relief. Instead, it made everything feel 100 times worse. Over the next 3 days, Jessica started seeing him everywhere. The weathered man with the navy jacket became a recurring character in the unnerving film her life had become. At the gas station on Burnside, he was standing by pump 7, just watching her fill her tank. He didn't have a car at the pump, just stood there, a silent observer. Outside her gym on Thursday morning, he was sitting on a bench across the street, slowly smoking a cigarette, his gaze fixed on the entrance. In the parking lot of her office building, he was leaning against a silver sedan that definitely wasn't the black SUV, but it felt connected somehow, another piece of the same terrifying puzzle. Each time, he never approached. He never spoke a word. He just watched her with those flat, emotionless eyes that seemed to see right through her. Jessica tried to reason with herself. She was imagining patterns where none existed. Portland isn't a massive city, but it's not a tiny town either. Coincidences happen all the time. You see the same faces on your commute, at your local coffee shop. It's normal. She repeated these reassurances like a mantra, trying to calm the storm brewing inside her. But by Friday night, as she drove home from a late client dinner, the idea of coincidence felt like a luxury she could no longer afford. The city lights blurred through her rain-streaked windshield, and the sense of being watched was no longer a prickle on her neck. It was a heavy weight pressing down on her. Then her phone buzzed. It was mounted on her dashboard, the screen lighting up the dark interior of her car. She glanced down, expecting a text from a friend or a late-night work email. What she saw instead turned her blood to ice water. AirTag detected. The notification glowed, sinister and stark. An unknown AirTag is moving with you. Below it, a map displayed a pulsating blue dot, her current location, with a small icon indicating that an AirTag had been traveling with her for over 4 hours. 4 hours. It had been with her at the restaurant, tracking her every move, and now it was with her in her car, a silent, invisible passenger. Jessica's breath caught in her throat. Her hands started shaking so badly she could barely grip the steering wheel. She had to pull over, now. Her tires screeched as she jerked the car into an empty church parking lot, the sound tearing through the quiet night. The engine idled, a low hum against the frantic pounding of her own heart. She stared at her phone, reading and rereading the message, as if staring at it long enough might make the words change, might make this all a terrible mistake. But they didn't change. Someone was tracking her, the man in the navy jacket, the black SUV. It was all real. Someone had planted a tracker on her, or in her car, or in her purse. They had been following her movements for hours, maybe for days, maybe since the first time she saw that SUV. The app offered an option. Play sound. A way to locate the tiny device. With a trembling finger, Jessica tapped the screen. She held her breath, listening, waiting for the sound that would confirm her worst fears. She waited, her breath held tight in her chest. All she could hear was the low hum of the car's heater and the gentle, rhythmic patter of rain on the roof. Still nothing. She couldn't just sit there. Jessica flung her car door open, not caring about the cold rain that immediately soaked her hair. She stumbled out, grabbing her purse from the passenger seat and dumping its contents in a frantic heap. She pawed through the mess of lipstick, old receipts, her wallet, a jumble of keys, and a bottle of hand sanitizer. No AirTag. Her hands started to shake. She frantically patted down the pockets of her coat. Nothing. Her search grew more desperate. She checked under the seats, her fingers brushing against old coffee cups and dust. She tore open the glove compartment, rummaged through the cup holders, and then, in a last-ditch effort, she threw open the trunk, tossing her gym bag and emergency kit aside. Nothing. 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 The notification on her phone, however, was still there. A glowing, terrifying message. An unknown AirTag is moving with you. Jessica scrambled back into the car, slamming the door shut. The rain streamed down the windows, blurring the streetlights into watery orange smears that seemed to mock her. She tried the play sound option on her phone again, pressing the screen with a trembling finger. This time she heard it. It was so faint she almost missed it, a soft, rhythmic beeping. But it wasn't coming from inside the car. Her blood ran cold. The sound was coming from underneath it. Jessica's stomach plummeted. She sat there frozen, listening to that tiny, distant electronic chirp, almost swallowed by the sound of the rain. Someone had attached an AirTag to the underside of her car. Someone had been tracking her. Every move she made, every place she went for who knows how long. The image of the weathered man's face flashed through her mind. Those dead, watching eyes that seemed to follow her everywhere. Panic took over. She peeled out of the parking lot, her car skidding on the wet asphalt. She was driving on pure autopilot, her mind racing 1,000,000 miles a minute. Should she pull over? Try to rip it off right here, right now? But what if he was watching? What if stopping was exactly what he wanted, making her an easy target? Her apartment was only 10 minutes away. It felt like an eternity, but it was her only safe haven. She could get inside, lock the doors, and then figure out what to do. That night was a blur of fear. Jessica didn't sleep. Every tiny sound made her jump. The old building's pipes groaning, the echo of footsteps in the hallway that could have been a neighbor, or could have been him. She clutched her phone in her hand like a lifeline, the AirTag notification still glowing on the screen, a digital ghost haunting her. Then, at 3 a.m., she heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. A soft, metallic tapping. It was rhythmic, deliberate, and it was coming from outside. From the parking lot below her second-floor window. From underneath her car. She didn't sleep a wink for the rest of that night. She just sat curled up on her couch, every light in her apartment blazing, staring at her phone. She listened to that occasional, terrifying metallic tapping that drifted up from the parking lot. By the time the weak winter sun finally filtered through her curtains, she had a plan. As soon as the clock hit 8, she called Randy's auto shop. Her voice was hoarse from exhaustion and fear when she spoke to the receptionist. "I need someone to look under my car," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Today. Right now, if possible." There was a short pause on the other end of the line. What seems to be the problem, ma'am? I think someone attached something to it. The receptionist's tone changed slightly. We can fit you in at 9:30. Jessica was there at 9:15. Her little Civic was pulled into Bay 3, and a mechanic named Tom, a man in his 40s with grease-stained coveralls and kind eyes, rolled a creeper underneath it. She stood nearby, her arms wrapped tightly around herself, watching his legs disappear under the chassis of her car. You said something's attached? Tom's voice echoed from beneath the vehicle. Near the back, she called out, her voice trembling. The rear tire, I think. She heard the scrape of metal on metal, some muttered cursing, and then Tom rolled back out. He was holding something small and white in his oil-stained hand. Even covered in mud and road grime, Jessica recognized it instantly. An AirTag. Found it, Tom said, wiping some of the mud off the white disc. Magnetically stuck right to your rear suspension. Someone really wedged this thing up there good. How long you think it's been there? Jessica's mouth was too dry to answer. She just stared at the small, innocent-looking device that had stolen her peace and turned her life into a living nightmare. Tom's voice softened. You should call the police, he said quietly. Detective Morris arrived at the auto shop 40 minutes later. She was a woman in her 50s, with a tired face but incredibly sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. She carefully bagged the AirTag as evidence and then took Jessica's statement, asking the questions Jessica had been dreading. Do you have any ex-boyfriends? Anyone you've had conflicts with recently? No, Jessica whispered. Nobody. What about at work? Any disputes? Anyone who might have a grudge against you? She shook her head. Her life was simple, almost boringly predictable. She worked in marketing, had a small, close circle of friends, and went to the gym 3 times a week. There was no drama, no scorned lovers, no vengeful co-workers. There was absolutely no reason for this to be happening. Then, she remembered. I've been seeing this man, Jessica said, the words tumbling out. Not dating him. I just keep seeing the same man everywhere. He's in his 50s, has a weathered face, always wears this navy blue jacket. He just watches me. Detective Morris wrote this down, her expression serious. Can you describe him in more detail? Jessica told her everything she could remember, every little detail about his appearance and where she'd seen him. The detective promised to check local security footage to see if they could get an ID. In the meantime, Morris said, holding up the evidence bag with the AirTag, we'll trace the serial number. Every Apple device is registered to an account. We'll find out who bought it. The detective's words offered a tiny spark of hope in the overwhelming darkness. They were going to find him. Thank you so much for watching this story unfold. If you've ever felt that sense of being watched or had a similar unsettling experience, please know you're not alone. Your safety is paramount. If you ever feel you're in danger, please contact your local authorities immediately. We'll be back with the next part of this story very soon, so make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications turned on so you don't miss what happens next. Stay safe out there. The call came 3 days later. I was at work trying to focus on a presentation about social media metrics when my phone buzzed. It was Detective Morris. Ms. Morgan, she said, we need you to come down to the station. We've traced the AirTag. My hands went numb. Who is it? Who's been following me? That's what we need to discuss in person. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and industrial cleaner. Detective Morris led me to a small interview room and closed the door. On the table between us was a manila folder. The AirTag is registered to a man named Robert Finch, Morris said, opening the folder. Do you know him? I shook my head. No, I've never heard that name before. Morris slid a photograph across the table. Is this the man you've been seeing? I looked at the photo and my whole world tilted sideways. The man in the picture was in his 50s, but he looked nothing like the weathered man who'd been following me. This man, Robert Finch, had a softer face, kind eyes, and a gentle smile. He was standing in front of a Christmas tree holding a mug that said, "World's Best Grandpa." That's not him, I whispered. That's not the man who's been following me. Detective Morris leaned back in her chair. Ms. Morgan, Robert Finch died 3 weeks ago. Heart attack in his home. His daughter found him. The room felt like it was spinning. What? The AirTag registered to him is the one we found on your car, she continued. But Robert Finch has been dead for 21 days. My mind raced, trying to make any sense of it. Then someone else has his AirTag. Someone took it after he died. Or, that's what we're trying to figure out, Morris interrupted. I need you to think very carefully. Are you absolutely certain you never knew Robert Finch? Never met him? Never crossed paths? I stared at the photograph. The kind eyes. The Christmas tree. I've never seen this man in my life. But even as I said it, something nagged at the back of my mind. Something about the photo felt familiar in a way I couldn't quite place. Detective Morris pulled out more papers. Robert lived in Northeast Portland, worked as a high school history teacher for 30 years before retiring, widowed 5 years ago. By all accounts, a quiet man. No criminal record, no history of stalking or harassment. Then why would his AirTag be on my car? That's the question. Morris folded her hands on the table. Here's what doesn't make sense. According to his daughter, Robert barely understood how to use his iPhone. She helped him set up the AirTag to keep track of his keys because he was getting forgetful. There's no reason he would have put it on your car and no evidence you two ever met. I felt sick. So someone else is using a dead man's AirTag to follow me, so it can't be traced back to them. That's our working theory. But why? Who would do that? Morris pulled out another photo, this one grainy, a screenshot from security footage. We pulled this from the Fred Meyer where you first noticed someone watching you. Is this the man? My heart stopped. There he was, captured in black and white, standing by the milk coolers. Navy jacket, weathered face. Those flat, dead eyes staring directly at the camera. That's him, I breathed. We're running facial recognition now, Morris said. In the meantime, I need you to go through your past. Old addresses, previous jobs, places you've lived. Somewhere, somehow, you're connected to either this man or Robert Finch. That night, I sat in my apartment surrounded by boxes I'd pulled from my storage unit. Old photos, yearbooks, rental agreements, anything that might trigger a memory. I'd moved to Portland 6 years ago from Sacramento, worked 3 different jobs, lived in 4 different apartments. Nothing connected to Robert Finch. Nothing explained the man in the navy jacket. I was about to give up when I found it, a photograph from my old apartment complex in Sacramento taken at a tenant barbecue. I was there in the background, 22 years old, laughing at something. And there, on the far edge of the photo, almost cut off by the frame, was an older man standing alone by the fence. I held the photo closer to the lamp. The man had kind eyes, a gentle smile. It was Robert Finch. My hands started shaking. I grabbed my phone and called Detective Morris, even though it was past 11 at night. I found something, I said, my voice cracking. I knew him. I knew Robert Finch. We lived in the same apartment complex 6 years ago in Sacramento. I never talked to him, never even knew his name, but he was there. There was a long silence on the other end. Then Morris said quietly, "Jessica, I need you to listen to me very carefully. We identified the man from the security footage an hour ago. His name is Vincent Finch. He's Robert's younger brother." My blood turned cold. Vincent has a history, Morris continued. Stalking charges in Oregon back in 2019, dropped due to insufficient evidence. A restraining order filed by a woman in Washington in 2021. And according to Robert's daughter, Vincent blamed Robert for his divorce 15 years ago. They hadn't spoken in over a decade. "I don't understand," I whispered. "What does any of this have to do with me?" "We're still piecing it together. But Jessica, Vincent Finch was at his brother's house the day after Robert died." The daughter confirmed it. "He came by to pay respects," she said. "He was alone in Robert's bedroom for almost 20 minutes. Long enough to take an AirTag. Long enough to plan something." "Why me?" My voice broke. "I didn't even know Robert. We never spoke. That's what we need to find out. I'm sending a patrol car to your building. Don't go anywhere alone. We're bringing Vincent in for questioning tomorrow. But I barely heard her. I was staring at the photograph from Sacramento, at Robert's kind face in the background, and suddenly I remembered something else. Something I had buried. The old apartment complex. The creepy maintenance man who always watched me. The complaints I'd filed. The way management finally fired someone after multiple women reported him. I'd never seen his face clearly, never knew his name, but I knew with sudden, terrible certainty that it had been Vincent Finch. And now, 6 years later, using his dead brother's tracker, he'd found me again. I didn't wait for the police. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely stuff my clothes into the duffel bag. My mind was a blur, replaying a memory I had tried to bury for 6 years. Vincent Finch. He was the maintenance man at my old apartment complex in Sacramento. I'd complained about him 3 times, once for just lingering outside my door for way too long. Another time, he entered my apartment when I wasn't home, claiming a pipe needed checking. But nothing was wrong. The final straw was when my neighbor Brittany caught him rifling through tenant files in the management office after hours. He was fired the next day. I never saw him again. Until now. I was zipping up my bag when my phone rang. It was Detective Morris. "Jessica, where are you?" His voice was sharp. "Packing," I said, my own voice trembling. "I'm going to stay with my friend downtown until—" "Stop packing," he cut me off, "and listen to me." The urgency in his tone was unmistakable. "We brought Vincent in an hour ago. He has an alibi for every single day you reported seeing him. Grocery store, gas station, your gym. He was at work across town, verified by multiple witnesses and time-stamped security footage." I froze, the duffel bag slipping from my grasp. "That's impossible. I saw him. I looked right at him." "I know what you saw," Morris said. "But it wasn't Vincent Finch. We showed him the security footage from the grocery store. He admitted he was the maintenance man at your old complex. He admitted he remembered you filing the complaints that got him fired. But Jessica..." Morris paused, and the silence was heavy. He seemed genuinely confused about why you'd think he was following you now. My blood ran cold. "Then who?" "That's what I need you to think about," the detective pressed. "Who else knew about Vincent? Who else knew about Sacramento? Who would know exactly what the man who stalked you 6 years ago looked like?" My mouth went dry. "Robert," I whispered. "Robert Finch knew. He lived there too. He must have known Vincent was his brother, must have known Vincent got fired. Robert's been dead for 3 weeks, Jessica." "But someone who knew Robert," I insisted, my mind racing. "Someone who—" I stopped. My apartment is on the 2nd floor, and through my window, I could see the parking lot below. And there he was, standing directly under the streetlight right next to my car, the weathered man in the navy jacket just watching my window. "He's here," I whispered into the phone, my voice barely a sound. "Right now. He's outside my building. Get away from the window. Lock yourself in the bathroom," Morris commanded. "Units are 2 minutes away." But I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. I just watched as the man below reached up and pulled at his face. The weathered, wrinkled skin came away in his hand. It was a mask, a prosthetic, and beneath it was a younger face, clean-shaven, maybe late 30s, a face I recognized. "Oh my God," I breathed. "It's Marcus. It's Robert's daughter's husband, Marcus." I'd only met him once, just for a moment. Detective Morris had taken me to speak with Robert's daughter, Diane, after her father's death. Marcus was there, playing the part of the quiet, supportive husband, handing his wife tissues as she cried. He'd shaken my hand. He'd looked me right in the eye with what I thought was sympathy. But they were the same flat, dead eyes I'd been seeing everywhere. "Marcus Holbrook?" Morris's voice crackled through the phone. "Jessica, how do you know?" "I met him at Diane's house," I explained, the pieces clicking into place with horrifying speed. "When you took me there, Marcus was there, and Diane mentioned her dad used to live in California." Marcus asked where. I said, Sacramento. I told them the name of my old complex because I was trying to figure out the connection. I had handed him everything. The location, the timeline. He had everything he needed to find out about Vincent, about the complaints, about my deepest fear. Units are 1 minute out, Morris said. Stay on the line with me. But my mind was already replaying that visit. The way Marcus had excused himself, saying he needed to check on something in Robert's bedroom. The same bedroom where Robert had kept his spare AirTag. He took the AirTag that day, I realized out loud, when we were at the house. He took it and put it on my car in Diane's driveway. I parked right out front. He had access to everything. Robert's Apple account, his devices, the AirTag. Why would he do this? Morris demanded. What's the motive? I looked down at the parking lot again. Marcus was gone. He had vanished into the shadows between the buildings. And then I heard it, a rattle at my front door. Someone was trying to open it. My scream was trapped in my throat. I always lock it, but the handle was turning, jiggling with more and more force. He's at my door, I gasped into the phone. He's trying to get in. 30 seconds, stay away from the door, Morris ordered. But the jiggling stopped. An eerie silence filled the hallway outside. I stood frozen in my living room, phone pressed to my ear, my heart hammering against my ribs. Then a new sound started, a soft scraping noise. It was coming from my bedroom window, the fire escape. I ran to my bedroom just in time to see Marcus climbing through the window he'd pried open. He was halfway inside when our eyes met. What I saw wasn't anger or rage. It was something far worse. Something calculated and ice cold. You ruined everything, he said, his voice quiet as he pulled himself fully into the room. He was holding a knife, its blade catching the dim light from my bedside lamp. You and your complaints, he continued. You got Vincent fired. He lost his job, his apartment. He was homeless for 2 years because of you. Robert tried to help him, tried to get him back on his feet, but Vincent blamed him, said Robert should have stood up for him, should have called you a liar. I backed away, fumbling behind me for the bedroom doorknob. I didn't lie, I whispered. Vincent was stalking multiple women. It broke Robert's heart. Marcus's voice finally rose, cracking with emotion. The stress of it all, worrying about Vincent, trying to help him while his own brother hated him for it. It destroyed Robert's health. The heart attack that killed him. The doctor said it was stress-induced. Years of family trauma. That's not my fault, I pleaded, my fingers finally closing around the doorknob. Robert was the only family Diane had left, Marcus snarled, taking a step closer. The only person who loved her unconditionally, and you took him from us. So I decided you should know what it feels like. To be watched, to be hunted, to feel unsafe in your own life. The police are coming, I said, my voice shaking. They're already here. He smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. I know. I called them myself 10 minutes ago, reported a domestic disturbance down the street. By the time they figure out it's a false call and reroute here, it'll be too late. Then he lunged. I ripped the door open and sprinted. I only made it to the living room before he grabbed me from behind, his arm locking around my throat, cutting off my air. The cold steel of the knife pressed against my cheek. You destroyed my wife's father, he hissed in my ear. You destroyed our family. And as the world started to go dark, I heard the distant but rapidly approaching wail of sirens. Would they be in time? Thank you so much for watching my story. Jessica couldn't breathe. Black spots danced in her vision as his hand clamped tighter around her throat. She clawed at his arm, but his grip was like iron. This was it. This was how she died. And why? Because 6 years ago, she did what anyone would do. She filed a legitimate complaint against a stalker. But that single act of self-preservation had somehow spiraled into this waking nightmare. Suddenly, the sound of splintering wood ripped through the air. Her apartment door crashed open. Portland police, drop the weapon. Detective Morris's voice was a lifeline. She rushed in, gun drawn, with 2 uniformed officers right behind her. Marcus's grip loosened for just a fraction of a second, but it was enough. Jessica drove her elbow backward with every ounce of strength she had left, connecting squarely with his ribs. He grunted and stumbled back. She threw herself forward, scrambling away from him and toward the officers who were already moving in to secure the scene. Marcus didn't fight. He just stood there as they cuffed him, a chillingly calm smile on his face. "She killed him," he said, his voice flat and even. "Maybe not with her own hands, but she killed Robert Finch as surely as if she'd stopped his heart herself." Detective Morris was having none of it. "You have the right to remain silent," she said, her voice hard as steel. "I suggest you use it." 3 months later, the physical danger was gone, but the battle was far from over. Jessica sat in her weekly therapy session with Dr. Reynolds, a kind, patient woman who specialized in trauma. They were working on what the doctor called hypervigilance. It was a word that perfectly described Jessica's new reality: the inability to go anywhere without constantly checking over her shoulder, the sudden, suffocating panic attacks in parking lots, the refusal to even get in her car without having it professionally inspected first, terrified of what she might find. Marcus Holbrook was facing a long list of charges: attempted murder, stalking, breaking, and entering. His trial was set for next month. His wife, Diane, had filed for divorce, claiming she had no idea what her husband had been up to. And Vincent Finch, the son of the man whose identity Marcus had stolen, had sent Jessica a rambling, apologetic letter through his lawyer. It explained nothing and helped even less. But the nightmares continued. Strangely, they weren't about Marcus, or the knife he'd held, or his hand around her throat. Her nightmares were haunted by a ghost she'd never even met. Robert Finch. Kind, gentle Robert, with his Christmas tree and his world's best grandpa mug. In her dreams, he was always there, standing in the background of her life, watching her with sad, knowing eyes. He was the ghost who had shaped her nightmare. "You couldn't have known," Dr. Reynolds would say, and she'd said it many times. "You filed legitimate complaints about a legitimate threat. What happened to Robert, what Marcus did, none of that is your fault." Jessica would nod, wanting to believe it, needing to believe it. But late at night, alone in her new apartment in a different part of Portland, the doubts would creep in. She'd think about chaos theory, about the butterfly effect, how one small decision, reporting a stalker 6 years ago, could create ripples through time, leading to consequences she could never have predicted. Her phone would sit on the coffee table, a black mirror reflecting her fear. Sometimes she'd just stare at it, her heart pounding, half expecting another notification, another AirTag alert, another horror wearing a dead man's identity. The notification never came, but Jessica checked anyway, every single day, multiple times a day. Her world had shrunk. She'd replaced her car, moved twice, and changed her phone number. She'd wiped her social media presence clean, stopped going to her favorite gym, and had her groceries delivered. Her life had become smaller, quieter, a fortress built of fear. Last week, Dr. Reynolds had suggested it was time to try and reclaim some of the life she'd lost. "Start small," she'd advised. "Go to a coffee shop, just sit in a public place, be around people." Jessica had agreed to try. So last Tuesday, she found herself in a bright, busy cafe. She watched people come and go, the normal, everyday rhythm of life playing out around her. Then she noticed him, a man at a corner table, maybe in his early 60s, reading a newspaper. He looked up once. His eyes met hers for a fleeting second, and then he looked away. It was completely normal, utterly innocent. But for Jessica, it was a trigger. Her heart began to race, a familiar drumbeat of terror. Her hands started shaking uncontrollably. She abandoned her untouched coffee and walked out, head down, moving as fast as she could, because that's what Marcus had truly stolen from her. It wasn't just her sense of safety. That could be rebuilt with stronger locks, better alarms, and the reassurance of police reports. He'd taken something far deeper, something much more fundamental. He'd stolen her ability to trust her own perception, her ability to tell the difference between a genuine threat and a phantom fear born of trauma. Now, Every stranger was a potential stalker. Every coincidence was a conspiracy. Every innocent glance felt like malice. She had done everything right. She'd traced the AirTag. She'd identified her stalker. She had survived a brutal attack. But the real horror Jessica was beginning to realize wasn't just what had happened to her. It was the sickening, lingering knowledge that it could happen again. That beneath the surface of every normal day, every ordinary moment, something could be watching, tracking, and waiting with a dead man's device and a living man's rage. She knew with a chilling certainty that she might never truly feel safe again. And Marcus Holbrook, locked away in a jail cell awaiting his trial, had won. He had achieved exactly what he wanted. He had broken her spirit and imprisoned her in a cage of her own fear, a prison from which she might never escape. The journey to healing from trauma is long and incredibly difficult, but it is possible. If you or someone you know is struggling, please remember that you are not alone and help is available. Reaching out to a therapist or a support group can be the first step toward reclaiming your life. Thank you so much for watching and for listening to this story. If it resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more content. Stay safe and be kind to one another.